Hello, it is Jamie here for Art in the AM, and I am working in my book for the word of the week. Every day, every Monday, during the year of 2025, during this year, I have been choosing a word and doing a little bit of art in this really nice watercolor journal. And last week, if you were watching, I tried out 5 different texture mediums, and this was what I kind of did to finish it off video. I used acrylic inks, and I kind of went back in and added more ink just so the textures would show up a little bit better, and I did label each one of them kind of in a little space. And now this is kind of a reference for me to be able to see these 5 different textures. So I have the heavy gel matte. Is that what that one is? Heavy gel matte. I have the clear tar gel, which I had never used before, and it had some yellow in there. It's not actually a yellow product. It had some yellow on the brush that I tried to use, or the scraper. And then this one is probably my favorite. It is the light molding paste. Light molding paste. This one is the Distress Texture Paste, and I thought it actually had the best resist. The ink like didn't stick to it, and it has a little bit of gloss, so I really do like that one. It is actually a sparkly texture paste, which you can get it without the sparkle. And then this one here is a really fun one. Good morning, Sue. It is a glass bead gel. And 4 of these products were Golden, the brand name Golden. And then the Distress one is by Ranger. I did find the sample kit that I talked about with all of the Golden little samples of like their texture mediums. So that is in my Amazon shop. If you want to check that out, just put Amazon in the comments and I will get this link. If you have my Amazon shop link already, just go to the one, I think it says like basic art journaling supplies. So I have a whole list of recommendations of basic supplies. So last week, the word was aesthetics. I talked about aesthetics. And during the month of August, which this is the last Monday in August, I've been doing A words. So the last A word is attitude. It is attitude. And you may be wondering what that has to do with art. Art? You know, that reminds me, I actually took a class. I was working on my master's, I believe, or continuing classes or something that I had to take to keep my art education certification going. And it was called Art and Attitudes. Attitude and art. So it was those 2 words. So they are connected. I used to always give my students, when I taught high school, a document, and it was a quote, a poem, a saying by Chuck Swindoll. And I don't even know if I knew at the time that that was who it was credited to, but it was all about attitude. And if I look up the definition of attitude, I have it over here. It's just the artist's perspective, stance, or point of view, with anything, their values, their intentions. It's just their point of view. It's your attitude, right? And sometimes we think of having like a good attitude or a bad attitude, right? Sometimes you could think of it as like outlook. You could think of it as perspective, So I'm getting some tape started, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this here. I have my journal, and I have it turned around so that it's upside down to me, and you can see it right side up. And I have two different kinds of tape. I saw an idea that I wanted to try out with my materials, right? Do you watch tutorials? Do you watch the little reels, videos of different ideas? I do. And sometimes I get ideas from those. And I'm going to try out the idea with the supplies that I have. They used tape, they used stamps, and they used a way to color the stamps. I don't actually know if they used paint or markers or what it was. It didn't show. So I have two different kinds of tape. I have a painter's tape and I have washi tape. And I was thinking I would probably want to use the painter's tape because it's thick enough, and I'll show you why. I think the washi tape, although I like the washi tape because it's not as sticky, I don't know that it's going to be the right thickness. So back to attitude. I had this quote that I would give to my high school students talking about attitude. And it said that the things that happen to you, it's 10% like actually what happens, and it's 90% of your attitude of how you react to it. And that was kind of how I started the new semester, talking about their attitude with how they respond to their artwork. What I'm going to do on this page here, and I think this is just such a fun idea that you could use in a lot of different ways. I'm going to take this tape and I'm going to create a border. And even sometimes to me, this painter's tape is kind of sticky. One of the things that you can do, I'm going to have it about the length of the page here. And I just kind of like put my thumb down on there and like rip it. One of the things that you can do is to take it and put it on your clothing to like take away some of that tackiness. So that's a lot of times what I do. I'll put it on my, my pants or my clothing, or because it's still too tacky. The other thing that you can do, and I'll show you, you can use your heat gun when you want to go and take it off. But what I'm going to do is actually rip this in half and get it started here. And just kind of let it rip. I might kind of guide it a little bit just for some interest. And so now I have two pieces. I should take this one over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the straight edge with the edge of the paper. And so do you see this border is actually going to have like this rough little edge here. Hey there, Gail. So tell me in the comments if you feel like you have a good attitude towards your artwork, if you have, I won't say a bad attitude, but maybe you have an attitude towards your artwork that you need to work on. So you can put good or I need to work on it. I like work on. I feel like that makes a big, I lost the end of the tape here. I feel like that makes a big difference in your artwork is the attitude that you have towards just what you're trying to do with the artwork, your goal. I feel like I have a lot less pressure when I have the attitude of I'm practicing. It's an experiment. And it helps me to let go of any kind of, that it has to be perfect. So I'm going to rip this one in half here. And then what will happen when I take these off is it'll have just like this fun kind of rough edge on here. Gail says lazy towards the beginning. That is an interesting perspective, lazy towards the beginning, because I like that you define at the beginning, which makes me kind of think that as you get going, maybe you have more interest. Well, I really like these two pieces because they're a little bit more uneven. So I think this is going to create like a nice little border in here. Hopefully that didn't move there. So I am using a stamp pad, which is a permanent ink. And this is probably important because I'm going to use watercolors to color this in. And you could do this two different ways. You could put the stamp pad on first and stamp, or you could do the watercolor first. I'm going to choose to do the stamp pad just so you can kind of see, see the design on there and not have to like let it dry as fast. So I have a couple of different stamps and I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to use them. I really like this one. It's called an antique square. Isn't that one nice? I kind of like just the design in there. The ink pad that I'm using is kind of like it's called Azure. It's just like a really pretty blue. I kind of like this one because it has, some of these bigger leaves that I could paint in and like the little berries. So I kind of like this one. This one is just kind of fun, and I thought that I could use multiple of these stamps kind of together. I love the little spirals. I love the little dots, and that's just kind of like a repeating kind of pattern. So I kind of like that one. I always love flowers, and this one kind of reminds me of like a sunflower, right? And I have this fall leaf. And as I'm looking at these 5 stamps that I got out, let's see if I can, those are my 5 stamps that I have there. I see where I could probably use a couple of them together. And that's what I'm thinking that I'm going to do. I'm going to leave this one out because I really like that one. I don't use it very often. And this one too, but I don't think it's going to work for what I want to do here with kind of this filling in around the border here. But I feel like these 3 I could work together, right? They're all kind of botanical. Is that the right word? They're all kind of, 2 different kinds of leaves that I feel like I could kind of put together, and then these flowers. And I think that it would be fun then to color them in. The only thing is the flower, because of the stamp pad that I have, would be blue. And I don't know if that would work really well. But I'm gonna try it. Maybe I would just have to change up the colors. Maybe it's not going to be a sunflower. Maybe it's going to be a different kind of flower. So here's what I'm going to do with the paper here. I'm going to kind of do just like an all over pattern. And I actually think I am going to use this washi tape because I want to use the word attitude in there. And I think I'm going to put my piece of washi tape right here in the middle. So I don't cover that up. I think that'll work pretty well. And it's kind of uneven on the edges there too. So I'm going to start with, I think, this bigger stamp here. And what I'm going to do is, I think this stamp pad's pretty good. It actually has a border on there too, which I didn't realize that was part of the stamp. So we'll see how that kind of works out there. I really kind of only want the botanical part, but we'll see. Oh, I didn't press down in the center there well enough, but I wanted it to like run off the edges. Let me see if I can get it lined back up. That's pretty close. And what I'm going to do is just kind of put it like just around and have it overlap a little bit in there. And actually the leaves on this are filled in with the blue, so that's kind of fun. Do you use very many stamp pads in your artwork? Or stamps. I don't get these out very often, and I really think that I'll use this leaf one. I should have looked to see if I had a green stamp pad. That would have been kind of fun. Let's try that one going straight there. When I kind of like how that didn't fill in completely in there because I didn't press down as hard. So I have that 4 times. I always like to do uneven numbers. So I think I will kind of do, you know, just a few like around the edges. And, you know, just kind of stamp those so that they have a lighter, you know, some of them are a little bit lighter on there. Let's see if I can get one over in here. And so in that way I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. There's like 9 on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and use a couple of these leaves. And we'll see what this one looks like. Ooh, look at that. Isn't that interesting how that came out darker than these other ones? That's very interesting. And I think I want some of those to be a little bit lighter, which I really like the lighter version of it too. And I'll overlap a couple in there. I think I need one kind of like right in here. And I'm just going to kind of overlap. And then what I'm going to use is the flower. Now, because this one isn't, you know, the ink is going to go on the flower is going to end up being blue. So we'll see how that looks. And I'm just kind of trying to make sure that it's inked up pretty well there. And I'm kind of overlapping these because my washi tape is still in the middle there, so I want enough to kind of overlap around those. Let's see, I have 4 of those. I feel like I want one more, maybe just like a lighter version of it. Ended up adding 3 more. I like the lighter, you know, kind of like the overlapping, kind of like fills some of that in. Okay. I feel like that is all. Make sure you cover up your ink pad. It even came with this little like color swatching thing on there. So that's kind of fun. Okay, I'm going to let this dry for a little bit. I can dry it actually with my heat gun. And what I will try to do with my stamp pads is like take a baby wipe and wipe those off. So I'm going to use my heat gun just a little bit, just to make sure like all the ink is kind of dry. Gail says, I find that I have anything to not get started. I do that, Gail. I definitely do that too. I don't know why. Sometimes it just feels like too much of a hassle to get everything out, and you know. So I'm using these travel watercolors. There's 42 in here. I tend to like how vibrant these are. So I'm going to use, since I mainly have blues in here, I think I want something to kind of contrast that a little bit in the background. And I think I'm going to use, like one of the, like maybe some yellows and oranges and reds in there, like in the background. So when I use these watercolors, I do not usually add water. Like I don't spray them with my water bottle or anything. I just usually will get some water going in there. So I'm going to start with kind of like this yellowish orange color here. And so I just get some water in there and it starts to soften up that paint. And it's usually enough with these that's enough to be able to kind of activate the paint in there. So I'm going to, this is kind of an experiment because I know that this is a permanent stamp pad, but I didn't know with it's turning it more green, which I kind of like in there. But I didn't know if it would kind of overlap with it or not. So I'm kind of liking how that looks. And maybe a little bit more yellow kind of in here. I'm kind of fading some of it out. Then I'm going to take some of this orange. That's definitely a contrast there with that blue. And then I may even put maybe some darker orange in some places, and then a little bit of a pop of a red. I like the variations in the orange. I will definitely let this dry and take off the tape so you can kind of see the border, you know, kind of along with it. So what I'm doing now, I'm using less water and kind of getting down into there, which makes the orange just more vibrant. There's more of that color in there. Okay, I think I'm going to use something kind of like along in here, like a reddish orange. Add some water into there. The water just, it kind of activates the, look at that color. Kind of activates the color and just kind of gets down into the pigment of the watercolor, if you haven't used watercolor very often. Ooh, that completely changed the look of that flower. And I don't know if this is exactly what I thought that this was, because of all the stamps are filled in with the blue. I was thinking that I was going to be painting in where the stamps were, but that's not exactly how that worked out. Some of them I like where I can see the texture of the watercolor. Hi there, Lori. Hi, Sue. Oh, thank you, Sue. And some of them I kind of want to like fade out. So I just kind of do like a variety of leaving some of them so it's a little bit more intense, some a little more faded. And I'm just trying to have like this spot over here now to me doesn't have any of this darker. So I wanted to put a little bit of that over here. Sometimes I kind of like to do darker like in the corners. And remember in the center area, I have that washi tape. So I kind of want, I think I kind of want a little bit darker kind of just around that washi tape. So do a little bit darker, which just means I'm putting less water and I have like more pigment in there. I'll use up the rest on that corner there. I kind of lifted up a little bit of that paint there because I felt like there was too much of a line of that darker. And so now that's lighter in there, I'm going to come back into that original yellow and maybe add some yellow in there. Kind of break some of that up. I'm just really playing with the watercolors and just kind of scanning around to see, you know, I have some lighter areas, some yellow that I want to keep, you know, just yellow. There's some of that darker kind of all around. Really just kind of playing. Make sure my paper towel. And then what I'm going to do is dry this. We'll see what it looks like once I take the tape off. Oh, thank you, Lori. I have not worn this shirt in a little while. It says, create a life you love. I know it's backwards for you. I actually had this made. Just for myself. So I've never made it available, but if you are interested in this t-shirt, let me know, because I may look into getting some of them made, and you can have a t-shirt that says create a life you love, and it has kind of like my colors that I always use on there, right? Okay, what I'm also going to do is kind of take my heat gun around this tape that I have on here, because that will make it pull off a little easier so it doesn't pull up the paper. And I'm going to do that right across the washi tape there too. It like softens the adhesive so that it doesn't pull up the paper. So watch this kind of awesomeness here, because I put that washi tape. Look at that. Now I have this fun area right in the middle there. And I will save a lot of times these pieces of washi tape, and I'll use them to collage into my artwork in other places. I'll probably save this tape too. One of the things that you can do is pull your tape like away from the, you know, the paper, and that came off really easily there. And I may save this because it's still pretty sticky, which means that I could maybe even use it for a border on another page. And then this one. And there was just a little piece in there that got stuck. Isn't that a cool little border in there? I love that idea of ripping the tape and then giving it like a little border. It wasn't pressed down really well right here, so there's a little bit of an edge. I'll show you. A little bit of an edge where the paint went underneath. And then this last one here. Oh, kind of right there. Sometimes I have to come at it from like both sides. I have a little like scrapbook where I just put like all of these little scraps. So how fun is that little, I have an area right here. It's a little watery. How fun is that? I really like the contrast of the blue next to like these yellows and oranges. And then right there is that little area. And then there was some pink that came through the other one. But this gives me like some different ideas for how I could combine the stamps with the watercolors. And it would probably look completely different if I did the watercolors first and then did the stamps over top. You know, it almost kind of made some of the stamps look more greenish. Like that one I feel like looks very green because of the yellow. Whereas if I did the watercolor first and let it dry, it would show through the stamps would stay more blue. Lori, I just took some different stamps that I have and I just stamped those. These were the 3 stamps that I used. And I just kind of like stamped them all over to get like that pattern. But isn't that fun? And then what I'll do is I'll put the word in here, which is attitude. And then what would you do in the border here? Would you do anything in the border? I think I may add something kind of in the border there. I'll probably do the lettering in black. So I may do just kind of a simple border around the edge there. I think this could be really fun in a lot of different ways. I have some other stamp pads, but it is important that you do a permanent ink stamp pad. You have to be careful because the watercolor would activate it again if you did the stamps first. If you did the watercolor first, let it dry completely, and then did the stamps, you probably wouldn't have to worry about it being a permanent one as much on there. I really like how that turned out, and that was pretty quick. I mean, really, I tore the tape and stamped the stamps and then did a little bit of fun watercolors. And I really like the combination of that navy blue, that deep blue, and then the yellows and the oranges in there. I'm liking that combination a lot. I might even try it again in a different combination. So remember, as always, these Monday videos for the word of the week, I do put on to my YouTube channel, and you can find the video from last week of this one that I did. And I also put another video last week on my YouTube channel. Tell me if you were part of the Create-a-thon community. We did a Christmas in July event back in July, and I don't have it over here, but I did a font that was very similar to this swirly font on this wooden letters here. And I don't have anything over here that has it on it, but I called it the Swirly Twirly font. And I did a tutorial inside of that community for that event in July. And last week, I added that video onto my YouTube. And as a matter of fact, there is a playlist over on my YouTube channel that has all of the videos from our Create-a-thons for the past year. I think it has all of the ones from the past year on there. So if you're interested in seeing those, whether you're in the group or not, you can watch all of those videos, because actually all of those videos will be disappearing from that group in the next 5 days. I think at the end of August, all the live videos will be disappearing from, I won't say disappearing, they're going to be taken down off of Facebook. So if you would like to watch any past videos, I am trying to put all of those over on my YouTube. So I will put the YouTube link for my channel down here in the comments, and you can always go over there and watch those videos. And that is where I will be putting this one. As soon as the video's over, I'll put it over on YouTube as well. So I hope that you have enjoyed these Word of the Week little fun tutorials. I will be back next week with the very first September word. It is Labor Day, but I do believe I will be able to come on and go live. If you would like a text message to know when I'm going live, just put text in the comments. And if for whatever reason I am not able to be live next week, I will send out a text and just let you know, one way or the other. But I did send out a text today, just a few minutes before the video starts usually, so you can come over and watch. Hi there, Linda. Oh, I love the little flowers and the little hearts, so thank you. Very good. So I hope you enjoy your Monday, enjoy your week, and maybe, just maybe, you will try this technique that I did with the tape uneven border, the stamps, and the watercolors. And, whether you had a little space in the center there or not, or you could always put something over top, right? You wouldn't have, but I kind of like the lifting up of the tape and kind of seeing that border on there. But if you try that, tag me, tag my business page so that I can see it and so that I can see that you tried. You can also go over into my Art Journaling 101 group and you could put it in there since we are working in a little journal, and put it over there too and share over there. And I would love to see it. So I will see you next week with the start of the word of the week for September.